everybody, it's time for another edition of Baking in Your Jammies. Today we're going to make peach upside down cake. Now I have to admit, I've never made this recipe. I saw this in a magazine, Country Living magazine, and I thought, oh my gosh, that just sounds so yummy. So we're going to try this together. And peaches are now just coming into season. I did get my peaches at the Deerwood vegetable stand, and she said that they were ripe and ready to eat, and they're from Colorado. But yummy, yummy peaches, endless variety of things that we can make with them. But today the star of the show is going to be peach upside down cake. So similar to a pineapple upside down cake, where we're going to put it in a 9-inch pan, and we're going to put the peaches on the bottom, and when we're done we flip it around and then the peaches become the top. So our cast of ingredients today are 2 sticks of butter, a cup of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of bourbon, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, half teaspoon of salt, times 2, so it's actually 1 teaspoon of salt total, but we're going to do that in 2 separate parts of the recipe. And then it calls for 2 large ripe peaches. The peaches that I got were quite small, so I'm going to use 4 of them. They're ripe and juicy and delicious. I just peeled them and then sliced them into about a quarter of an inch slice. So you want your peaches to be pretty, because that's what we're going to make in a spiral on the bottom of our pan. So treat them, you know, when they're ripe, they're a little bit harder to work with, so just be really careful. Use a really sharp knife. I'm not sure that you have to peel them, but I did peel them, and then I have them all sliced up and ready to go. And then our dry ingredients: a cup and a half of flour, a teaspoon and a half of baking powder, a cup of white sugar, 3 eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and then 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. So I have my oven preheated to 350, and that's ready to go. And then I'm just using my 9-inch cake pan. You could use a tart pan or a pie pan, I guess, if you wanted to or if you needed to. But I'm using my 9-inch cake pan. And I have prepped it with butter. So I have just used I actually used the wax paper that came off my stick of butter. And then I have a round of parchment. And you can use parchment or wax paper. I just drew around the bottom of my cake pan to mark the size and cut it out, and now I have my round ready to go. So I have my pan buttered, and now I'm putting my parchment in. Now, the next thing that we're going to put in here is the caramely sauce that the peaches go in. So on the stove I have melting a stick of butter, which is a half a cup of butter, a cup of brown sugar, the 2 tablespoons of bourbon, a half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and half a teaspoon of salt. And I think it's about ready. Alrighty, so just nice and melted, and oh, boy, does that smell good. Alrighty, so let me see here. We're going to pour this into our prepared pan. So I've got my pan ready to go, and now I'm just going to take that yummy caramely brown sugar and butter and bourbon and pour that in the pan. Holy moly, does this smell good. Alrighty, next come the peaches. Now, the peaches we're gonna start in the middle, and we're gonna layer these in a spiral so that they look pretty, because remember, this becomes the top of the cake, so we want that to look pretty. Now, I'm gonna start right in the middle and just make them all going the same direction. I'm gonna put these in. Alrighty, oh, yummy, yummy, yummy. To kind of overlap them a little bit. And these are going to be so delicious. Alrighty, so now I have all of my peaches. I don't want to lift it up too much, but I have them, and 4 of those smaller peaches was absolutely perfect. So I have them all lined up in a spiral, and we're just going to set this aside. I wish you could smell it. And now we're going to make our batter. So we're going to put our dry ingredients in a bowl first. So a cup and a half of flour, I want to say a cup and a half, a teaspoon and a half of baking powder, and a half a teaspoon of salt. So that gets whisked together, and we're just going to set that aside. And then in my mixer, I have 1 cup of softened butter and a cup of sugar, and I'm just going to beat this until it's fluffy. Now I have already beat it a little bit, but I'm just going to do the last little bit of whipping here together. Just till that's nice and fluffy. And then we're going to add in our eggs one at a time. So while that is beating, I have cracked 3 eggs in this. I'm making sure that I don't have any shells and that they're all good. I'm going to just plop in one at a time. And let those each get nice and incorporated. And egg number 2. Alright. So now we've got our milk, our softened butter, our sugar, and our eggs. And then we're going to add vanilla, and it is 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So 1, 2. I love my vanilla. Oh, yummy, yummy. Okay. Now, as in many of our ingredients, we're going to take our flour and our leavening agents, and we're going to alternate them with the buttermilk. Now, if you don't have buttermilk, again, remember you can make it sour with using a little bit of lemon or a little bit of vanilla. You can just use plain milk too, but buttermilk just makes it that much richer. So we're going to start with, and we're going to do this in about thirds. So start with about 1/3 of our flour. Remember, start it slow. About 1/3 of our milk, and it's 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. And another 1/3 of our flour. Just dumped a little bit on the counter there. Okay, a little bit more milk. And the rest of our flour. Alrighty, and the last of our milk goes in. I'm going to stop this and just take my spatula and make sure that everything is cleaned off the sides there so it all gets mixed in well. And we're going to just mix this until it's all mixed together. Making sure I have everything. Alrighty. One little last whip. Okay, now we just have this lovely batter that smells really good. And we're gonna put this on top of our peaches. Okay, so we have our peaches ready to go here. And we're just going to spoon this on. I always say that, spoon. I'm not using a spoon. So we're just going to pour it on. I guess it's pretty thin. We're going to put that all in. And then this is going to get baked at a 350-degree oven for 35 to 40 minutes. You want it to be nice and pulled away from the sides and a little bit brown on top. Test it with a toothpick if you need to. Alrighty. Right to the top there. Okay, so that's going to go in the oven, and we're going to come back when it's done and finish up. Already I have 2 corrections while we're waiting for our cake to finish baking. First of all, when I'm making the batter, I said that there was a cup of butter in there. It's a 1/2 cup of butter. It's 1 stick of butter. And then when I talk about making the buttermilk, you can't make sour milk with vanilla. So again, if you need to make buttermilk, you can sour it with lemon or with vinegar, not with vanilla. And again, plain milk works too. It is starting to smell really, really good in my kitchen, and I can't wait till this recipe is out of the oven and yummy, yummy. Alrighty, it's time to take our cake out of our pan now. I baked mine for almost 40 minutes, And I would be very careful the next time I did this. I would be sure to put a cookie sheet underneath because it did bubble up over and then burned on the bottom of my oven. So I would put it on a baking sheet under it to catch all those drizzles because all that goodness from the caramel did bubble up and spill over. So, but it looks perfect. I've had it cooling now for about 20 minutes, and I'm going to take my pretty cake plate that I'm going to serve it on, and we're just going to put it upside down on the cake pan itself. And I have taken a knife and gone around the edges of my cake pan just to loosen that up. It should come right out though because we have that piece of parchment in there and we buttered it well, and there's lots of gooiness in here. So here we go. Flip it over and shake it out of the pan. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Alrighty, and then we're going to take off that piece of parchment. And it looks delicious. Alrighty, now we're just going to let that cool, and then I'm going to serve this up with a little dollop of not sour cream, whipping cream, or ice cream would be really good too. So there you have it, peach upside down cake. Enjoy.